from your perspective, how do companies actually create policies and procedures to ensure that, the top talent actually stays with them and they are able to experience the things that you talk about belonging and inclusion?
A couple of quick things. One of which I will reference an experience I had. I was at a roundtable discussion, and I was leading a group of male sales leaders. And I asked them, if an individual contributor who happens to be a man comes to you and says that he wants to go into sales leadership, what do you coach him on? And they said things like forecasting, P&L, the number side.
Right.
And then I said, okay, let's flip it. If a female individual contributor comes to you and wants to ascend to sales leadership, what do you coach her on? And they said, well, primarily soft skills like relationship building and empathy and the soft skills. And I said, okay, why the difference? And they looked around at each other and kind of shrugged and said, well, that's the way we've always done it. So when you're developing policies and procedures for women to ascend to sales leadership, which everyone that I talk to wants to get more women in sales leadership because it attracts more women in sales for their individual contributor roles, you have to coach people on the same thing to give them access to the same strengths and the same leadership qualities. If you're going to coach on emotional intelligence, then everybody gets coached on emotional intelligence. The same thing with forecasting, the same thing with P&L. There should not be a difference based upon the gender. And that's what we find too often. And another thing I wanted to mention is 99.9% of the companies that I talk to have no policies in place to protect their female workers or male workers against bad behavior, AKA sexual harassment, at the hands of a prospect or customer. They have internal policies that protect from coworkers. But if a woman is sexually harassed at the hands of a prospect, what does she do? She can't go back to her boss because he is not trained or coached on how to handle it. So many times I talk to our members and I say, well, what do you do? And they say, well, a myriad of things. Number one, I knew what I was expected to do when I took the job. I knew what I was signing up for. Or I go to my boss and he says, well, what do you want me to do? Not being flippant, but he really, or she doesn't really know what to do because there hasn't been education in that realm. And the last thing they say is, I have a mortgage to pay, Cynthia. I'm not about to go to my manager for fear that he or she is going to take that account away from me because I've got bills to pay. So those are little things that can be really impactful that nobody's thinking about.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And when a lot of times leaders are in roles, when you're a leader, you don't necessarily have all that expertise and knowledge to do some of the things that you just talked about.